Hello, my name's Matt Brittin. I look after Google in Africa, the Middle East and Europe, and I'm really delighted to be here with you today. And I want to thank the Economist Impact for having me and for putting on this 7th annual Sustainability Week. It's a really amazing opportunity for us to come together, to share ideas and experiences, and to learn from one another, and ensure that we don't drop momentum on such an important issue. Now, everyone at this conference will feel the impact of the climate crisis every day and care deeply about it, which is why we're here. I don't need to tell you the urgency of the situation or that those of us in a position of power must help make things better. Instead, I'll tell you that I'm optimistic. Climate change is the top most perceived threat across Europe. 72% of the global population are concerned or fearful of it, and people are voting with their feet for sustainable choices, pushing governments and businesses into accelerated action. We're able to take those actions because of what I want to talk to you about today: tools and technology. The IPCC have said that we have all the tools and technology we need to fight climate change. We just need to use them. And across the world, data, AI and advanced technology is already being used to fight climate change. I'm going to explain how these tools are being used by businesses, cities and individuals, and how we at Google use these tools to cut our own emissions, and how you can do that too, sometimes as easily as with the click of a button. At Google, we're committed to sharing technology and products and methods and funding to help organisations everywhere to transition to more sustainable systems. But to explain how we work with others to reduce their own footprint, it's worth explaining how we're tackling our own. Sustainability has been a core value at Google since we began, and we became the first major company to become carbon neutral way back in 2007. Coincidentally, that's the year I joined the company. I was a child then. And we did that using the tools that were available to us at the time, imperfect tools. First, we quantified our own operational emissions and focused on reduction. And then we purchased offsets to neutralise the rest. But that didn't feel like enough. Offsetting was not a sustainable and long-term solution. So we started purchasing renewable energy. And within 10 years, we were able to match 100% of our annual electricity consumption with renewable energy for the first time, something we've done every year since. Google is now in its 3rd decade of climate action, and we're aiming to achieve net zero emissions across all of our operations and value chain by 2030. We plan to reduce the majority of emissions before that, and to invest in nature and technology-based carbon removal solutions to neutralise any emissions that remain. One of our key strategies for reaching net zero is to aim to operate on 24/7 carbon-free energy, so that by 2030, every email you send through Gmail, every question you ask us through search, every YouTube video that you watch will be supplied at our data centres by carbon-free energy every hour of every day. AI and advanced technology were essential to us along that journey, and they're something we're still relying on every day in our work. AI is able to take lots of data inputs and suggest best practices that would be too complicated for a human to identify on their own. And at Google, we run lots of complicated systems. So we use tools like AI to tell us how they can be improved and to make us as efficient as possible. Every day in our data centres all across the world, we use a carbon intelligent platform to compare 2 types of forecast for the following day. The first tells us how much clean energy is going to be on the grid at any time. And the second tells us how much energy we're going to need at any time. When you compare the two and we plan our computing load accordingly, we aim to use as little carbon as possible, doing as much work as possible at the time when the most clean energy is in the grid, and as little as possible when the supply is dirtier. So that system is the first of its kind, and it gives us flexibility. It reduces the carbon footprint of our computing tasks, all using data and AI. We've also worked with our own AI experts at DeepMind here in London to increase our energy efficiency in our data centres, using AI to break down data sets and improve our cooling systems, increasing energy efficiency by 30%. That's how our customers get the cleanest cloud, and how 5 of our data centre sites operate already nearly 90% carbon free. So advanced technology is key to helping us to reach net zero by 2030. But of course, we're only one company, and that's why we're working with other businesses to reduce their own carbon impact by providing tools and technology and training that can help them to track, reduce, and eventually remove carbon emissions from their operations. Now, let me give you an example from the Brazilian Amazon. Years ago, Google Earth Engine teams were working in the area, and they were approached by some local scientists who were fighting deforestation. Millions of acres a year of the rainforest was being lost, mostly in the remote parts of the forest with no law enforcement. Scientists had an idea. They wanted to know if Google Earth could be used to track and fight deforestation. Now, fast forward over a decade, and people across the world rely on Google Earth to do everything from fighting deforestation to protecting endangered species and predicting disease outbreaks. Using cloud technology, AI, and Google Earth, scientists can track the growth of a disease or the sighting of a rare animal, predict its movement, and share data with other researchers. And we're now using that same technology to help businesses clean up their supply chains, an area which is often tricky for businesses to keep track of. But using cloud computing, satellite imagery, and AI, we can help unpick that process, helping identify where emissions are coming from and how to reduce them, as well as the people and the areas that are most impacted throughout the process. Let's take Unilever as an example. Already, about 99.6% of Unilever's palm oil is sustainably sourced, but they want to make that 100% by 2023. Now, the process is complicated, with thousands of palm oil mills, often working with smallholder farmers. In the first mile of the palm supply chain, the crops that can change hands multiple times. And for a business, that's really hard to track. So, we've worked with Unilever and partners on the ground to understand where its palm oil is actually coming from in the very first place. And by using advanced technology in Google Earth Engine, we can follow the process. That extra layer of visibility means that Unilever can take even more targeted action if there's a breach of their responsible sourcing policy, for example, deforestation. And for the company, this has been an absolute game changer. They're now considering doing the same with other raw material goods like cocoa over the next few years. Let me give you another example from the fashion industry. Now, fashion is a famously large polluter, contributing up to 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So, to change that, late last year, working in partnership with WWF Sweden and with fashion brand Stella McCartney as a pilot, we launched the Global Fiber Impact Explorer. Now, this uses Google Earth Engine and cloud computing. This time, they're using those tools to assess the environmental risk of different fibers across regions. The tool can consider things like air pollution, biodiversity, gas emissions, forestry, water use, as well as opportunities to work with local communities so that fashion brands can have the data they need to decode their supply chain and making more responsible sourcing decisions while partnering with local communities. One final example for you, and this time on digital resources, not natural ones. Our engineers at Google Cloud have developed a way to help developers and IT teams to easily reduce the carbon emissions of their cloud projects. Using machine learning, it finds projects running on Google servers that a customer may have forgotten about. So we can check, is it still wanted? And if it's not wanted, we can delete it. Removing those unwanted projects could save 600,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide a month, a similar impact to planting 10,000 trees. And for our customers, it really is as simple as ticking a box. It's not just because businesses can benefit from advanced technology to clean up their supply chains, that AI can also be used to cut emissions in electricity and transport systems, to facilitate clean infrastructure planning, and to manage extreme weather impacts, making it just as beneficial for cities and communities as it is for business. In 2020, we committed to helping more than 500 cities and local governments to reduce a total of 1 gigaton of carbon emissions by 2030. Now, today I'm in London, where the Mayor's office has used our Maps technology, the same you probably use regularly, to help people understand and prepare for the ultra-low emissions zone, as well as using our Google Earth outreach tools for the Breathe London project, which aims to improve the toxicity of air in London. Now, air quality in cities can vary up to 8 times between streets that are close together. So being able to use powerful tools to map those emissions is one of the things which we can do. And that's also a reason we created Environmental Insights Explorer, now covering more than 7,000 cities and regions across Europe, using data sources and modelling capabilities to track carbon emissions and determine how to reduce them. In Berlin, the Environmental Insights Explorer is being used to analyse data quality about air, noise levels, traffic, and helping to bring about changes to cycling and other transport infrastructure. While in Scotland, it's used to help people of Glasgow better understand and track their emissions, as well as how they can be reduced. Using that kind of advanced technology, we can work with cities to solve a specific problem. Like in Kampala, where we're working with a local university to tackle their dangerously high air pollution levels, using air sensors installed on the back of motorbike taxis and on the top of buildings, combining that with AI to monitor and forecast pollution so that you can improve air quality and inform future traffic interventions. It's not just urban landscapes benefiting from this kind of technology either. Let's go back to the Amazon. We're using technology to protect indigenous communities against deforestation. The Tembe people used to have to patrol the Amazon forest on foot, which was time-consuming and could be dangerous. But using technology, they've given the forest ears. Installing old mobile phones in trees, which can listen to the sounds around them, and using open source technology, identifying noises that signify danger, like a chainsaw. The phones can then send a real-time alert and the location to the rangers, who can take action. They can decide how they can respond best to what they're hearing, reducing the time and risk spent patrolling the land, and instead giving them time for their culture, their family, their community, and their survival. To me, that's one of the most amazing things about technology in general. It doesn't always need big budgets, urban landscapes, or special knowledge. Anyone with an internet connection can make it work. In fact, you're probably using AI and advanced technology to cut your own carbon footprint already, without even realizing it. Every day, people use Google to search for general information on climate change and ways that they can take action themselves. It's a huge responsibility that we're grateful for, and we know many people aren't sure where to start. We want to help better answer those questions, and in 2020, we set ourselves a challenge as a result of that. How can we help 1 billion people to make more sustainable choices by 2022? And last year, we introduced some changes to our products to help them do just that. We started by introducing some changes to search, so that when you search on Google for climate change or related terms, you see a new layout with relevant information and guidance from authoritative sources like the UN, as well as concise explainers on the causes of climate change, its effects, and actions that you can take to live more sustainably. Now, search isn't the only tool getting a refurb. Road vehicles are one of the largest contributors of greenhouse gases worldwide, and we know that many people taking those journeys are using maps. So from this year, Google Maps will offer eco-friendly routing in Europe, showing the most fuel-efficient route as well as the fastest, if they're not the same. And we think that could change and save over 1 million tons of carbon emissions per year. That's the same as taking 200,000 vehicles off the road, and it's made possible by AI and advanced technology which identify those routes, calculating the fuel usage for each based on things like historic traffic patterns. People also use Google for longer distance travel, so we're helping you make sustainable choices on those journeys too. We've introduced information on carbon emissions directly into Google Flights, something made possible through AI and data from the European Environmental Agency. And for hotel choices, you're now able to see when a hotel's made meaningful commitments to sustainable practices when you use Google Hotels to look. Now, of course, there's still a huge amount of work to do, but we're doing our bit every day to build the right technology to improve our own systems and to fight climate change, working in partnership with industry, our customers and partners, and the wider public. And with clear government direction, we can do this. We have what we need to fight the climate crisis. Now let's get on with it.